The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something that looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better... Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience. And good evening, everyone. Welcome. Monday night, Sasquatch Experience. Sean Forker, James Baker, Henry May, Vance Nesbitt, and our special guest tonight, Mr. Studley Lamar. Studley, thanks for joining us here tonight on Sasquatch Experience.
Lamar, wow.
Our friend, guys, past guest and everyone's favorite, Cory Lekopoy here joining us in studio. Going to talk about maple leaf monsters tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
you very much.
It's our pleasure, man. We love having you on the show, and it's so great to see you with us. And we've had a great pre-show. We should start recording these and putting them out for people because they're something special.
Oh,
enough to hand out.
All right.
You're a great bunch of guys, and I have no problem coming on here with you guys because you guys are fabulous. And I'm not trying to kiss anybody.
See, but we like to enunciate it. Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's how we do it here.
It's enough to... The pre-shows are enough to get us indicted, and then by the time that this show ends, we'll be canceled. So, what a great day to be alive.
Well, cancel culture will take us out.
How about it? Last week, guys, we went through listener sighting reports, and that was a pretty well-received episode. Thanks for the people who sent in those sightings. We really appreciate it. That really cool video we also got sent to us looking at those Bigfoot sighting or the Bigfoot footprints. That was pretty cool. All in all, guys, a pretty good show. What do you think?
Yeah.
No, it was a good show. And I always like to hear people's personal encounters because it adds a different dynamic than like a BFRO site where they're reporting it secondhand. When you get it directly from the witness themselves, I think it paint a little bit bigger of a picture mentally as to what they may have experienced. So, yeah, I like the direct contact. So I appreciated everybody that sent that their experiences over last week.
Heard that about you, Vance, liking that direct contact.
And I
do. Yes. Is it wrong? No, we're not
going
there.
Boy.
No, we're not going there.
We're
not going there.
Here we go.
But you have to agree with that, actually. I've been on BFRO excursions before, and it's not the same as actual encounters.
Right.
It's like it's almost like and I'm not trying to say anything against BFRO, but it's like it's the same story of you tell somebody something and then they tell somebody something and then they tell somebody something, and the story just gets disfigured.
It gets morphed,
compared to the actual person that had the encounter.
Right.
Sorry.
No, very true. No. We don't want you to shut up. This show is about you and
That's right.
Team Lekopoy, and this entire season is farther north. So, Cory, if you want to talk about any of your experiences or the lore, the culture from where you're at, I keep throwing up the word Winnipeg because I know that's the term in which you use for the area in which you live in Manitoba. What's that?
Winterpeg.
Yeah, well, it would be Winterpeg right now, I would imagine. It should be
Actually,
coming out of
we're
that
not
pretty
right
soon.
now. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's good.
Like we just went through a month of about minus 40, like Fahrenheit.
You're still there. What is the matter with
summer
you?
We'll go up to like minus, like we'll go up to like plus 35, like, and I can't convert that to Celsius, but it's hot. It's like Florida hot.
90.
Like,
Yeah, it's about 90, right?
Yeah.
I know this whole metric thing has me completely screwed, but that's not really our point. But
I'm the middle age on that metric thing.
Yeah, I get you.
I still go by miles per hour when I put the hammer down.
Right. No, but our whole point of having you back is because right now, from the first time you were on our show, you're our most downloaded show. So apparently a lot of listeners enjoyed what you had to share the first time around. So I think on this time around, I would ask you a question strictly on the whole Sasquatch topic. What is the culture where you're at, where you live, and how people feel about the whole topic besides you having a personal encounter?
I would have to say that it's a sparse population, okay? And but there is a lot of natives in Manitoba. And basically either people think it's just a myth and they laugh at you and think that, oh, you've seen Sasquatch, and they laugh at you. But the native population takes it seriously. And myself, I am actually, my grandmother was Swampy Cree, and I am native, even though I'm completely white. But I've seen Sasquatch 3 times, and that means a lot to the natives because there's the 7 sacred teachings that are involved in the in the Cree area anyway. I can't say all natives, but in the Cree area, and it's all animals, and each animal means something. It's not, and I'm not going to denounce anybody who's a Christian or anything like that, but it's a different type of spirituality.
Right.
And Sasquatch means honesty. And I am actually, it's going to sound bad, but there's a bunch of even my native relatives that don't like me because they are dark skinned and still in the bush and everything.
Right.
And denounce me for the spirituality that I've gotten to see it 3 times.
Right.
It's a very, very, very spiritual animal, and I will call it an animal. I don't believe that it's a spirit. I don't believe that it's, from what I've seen, no, it's an animal.
Right.
But it's a very rare animal. And
yeah, you're not on that path, and I know we've had conversations before that you didn't believe that this is an interdimensional type of being that comes from through a portal from other dimension or some fact like that.
Not a chance.
Yeah, right. So with you stating, and I think I know the answer to this, with you stating you've seen it 3 times, out of those 3 times, which of those 3 was the most prominent one that you had? The one that's just...
It was actually the recent one where I seen like, and I don't know how in depth you want me to get in here right now, but if you listen to the show, I had one approach my car and then I had one right in front of my car.
Uh-huh.
And the one right in front of my car was, there's no chances whatsoever. My mind wasn't playing games with me. That was absolutely, nope, this thing is real.
Yeah. Well, give us a quick, rundown for those that haven't heard your story before about that story. The one I found the most
Why don't you tell my
fascinating.
story, Vance?
No,
you know it.
because I'll screw it up because, again, like the BFRO, I'll be sharing it from, not the first person's witness account. But, when you shared with me the one encounter where you were in front of your vehicle taking pictures of the lake and it ran behind your vehicle,
it was actually,
you had all those freaking horse flies buzzing around, and you had those photographs. You just didn't have a photograph of this thing because you didn't expect this to happen.
But I was actually in my door of my car.
Well, yeah, your door was open of your vehicle, right?
And it ran in front, and that was the closer one. But prior to that, I'll try to tell a story. And prior to that was I was going up north back home. I'm from central Manitoba to northern Manitoba, and I ended up, I had a week off. Everyone was bugging me at work, and I just went, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go up, and I'm gonna go visit family back up north. But there's a lake called Cedar Lake, and I'll tell the names this time because nobody cares. Like, nobody's gonna come up there. But Cedar Lake, and I found a bush trail to go up, and I'm driving a freaking HHR, like a car, down this like trucking road, but I was gonna get there, and when I got to, I just seen the lake, and I went, oh, okay, good, I can turn around. There's the lake. I found a place where if I go up north, I can just go hide and camp. I can like take my son up with me, and then I seen this guy walking towards me, and I was just like, okay, like who's that? And it's walking, and honest to God, I can only compare it to an 80s rocker. And it was approaching me, and when we went back, my brother and a friend of ours from Alberta went there, and we got a rough judgment. And the thing, the guy, as per se, was only about 100 yards from me, which is like 300 feet. That's not that far.
No, not at all.
I recognized them as like just some north, because that's the way a lot of, I'm sorry to say it, but a lot of natives up north have long dark hair, and they just whatever, right? And I'm not trying to say that as a bad comment because that's part of my family, but
right.
And then it put its head up and it darted in the bush. Well, I got to turn my car around, so I know the lake is there, and every lake has a place to turn around. Like if there's a road that goes to a lake, there's a place to turn around. So I went to turn around, and I thought I was just being crazy because I seen a native guy down there, and he had long dark hair, of course, just like everyone else up there, and he ended up, I'm talking to him, and he's loading a boat, and I'm going, like, bringing it onto shore, and I go, well, why didn't you get your buddy to help you? And he's like, what do you mean, my buddy? And I said, no, I just seen one of your chums. Actually, I used the term chum, which is really, but, and I asked him, I said, well, why isn't he helping you? And he goes, well, I'm here by myself. Did you? And he goes, do you see one of my chummies? And he started laughing. And he instantly went, because where the lake is, there's an ATCO trailer, which is just basically like a just a block of building kind of thing, like just like the transport cans and stuff.
Mhm.
And he ended up scooting right to the door of that. And I didn't pay much attention, and I took some pictures and everything. And then I went to my car because I already had it turned around, and I had the door open, and I took a couple more pictures. And I took a picture. I was turning, and I took a picture, and I seen this native fella dive down. And I got a picture of him diving down. And when I turned back around, that's when this freaking huge gray thing actually ran like within about, I can't guesstimate more than 10 feet in front of my car.
Mhm.
And I can't forget it.
I can't
So that's
say I
the
blame you.
closest dance I ever got to a Sasquatch.
Mm.
No, it's
And how many people say, "Oh, I would like to have that experience," but do you sit on the same bench of "Be careful what you wish for"?
no,
Because
Del.
I know
Del,
you
no,
suffered quite a bit from that.
I'm telling you, Del wanted to see one so bad, and he was so mad, and he was like, he knew they were like, just he's going like, and we would go out, and he was so upset, and I said, Del, don't, you don't want this to happen, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is some messed up shit.
Right.
And I said shit, Forker.
That's okay. It's quite appropriate. It's quite appropriate.
No, but no, you don't want, no, honest to God. I'd rather think that it was real than going into the bush and knowing that that shit is out there.
Right.
But I still.
But from when you first shared the story with me, you know, I play the movie in my head from my perspective, from the imagery in which you shared, and what I got out of it is when it was running past your car and it ran off into the wood line, and it was just, that was it. It was done.
No, it wasn't.
You didn't see it anymore after that?
No. I jumped in my car, and you got to remember, I'm driving an HHR on a freaking, like, a trucker's road. I never should have gotten
Right.
the car there. But I'm from the north, so we used to go have bush parties, and we drive our cars everywhere. So I'm used to, like, turning it and going through the potholes, and I think the top mile an hour I got was about 10 kilometers an hour.
Mhm.
And which is, you know,
Slow
in miles an hour, because I
Right.
couldn't. And I tried to
Right.
race out of there, and I could hear in the bush along the car, because I rolled the windows down because of all the horse. You brought up the horseflies. All the horseflies were in my car. And so not only the panic of what I just seen, but I'm being attacked by horseflies. And so I rolled the windows down, and I could actually see the bush beside me and hear the foot, like, boom, boom. And it was, as far as I'm concerned, and any elders that I've ever talked to, it was chasing me out. That's
Right.
all it was doing.
Right.
But then in my head, I drove another 6.5 hours back home to Winnipeg. And in my head, I could still hear every foot just boom, boom, boom.
Footfall. Yeah.
And when I came home, the family here was just, I was messed up. I was messed up.
And rightfully so. I could certainly understand. I certainly understand that. Yeah.
Talking to you.
Well, you know, that we're here for therapy. That's what we're here for, is the therapy of it.
Yeah.
But you did share pictures of the area, and you know, that's always one thing when a witness is sharing their story in audio. But you need to be able to paint the picture and be in the moment in that environment. And you shared pictures with me, and you know, you were showing the horse flies just as you were snapping pictures of the lake. You could see all the horse flies. And if anybody knows what those things are demons with wings to begin with.
Well,
because
I hate to interrupt you, Vance, but
No.
the more north you go, the bigger things get,
Yeah.
especially with insects.
Yes. Is it wrong? No. Yeah, we
They're
won't go
nasty.
there. Yeah,
They're
no.
nasty.
Yeah, I know they are. And we have a few of the nasty horse flies here, and I've been bit by one, and it's Satan with wings. If anybody's never seen one, the first time you see one, you'll know exactly what they are. And you were snapping pictures of the lake, and you just see like 12 of them in one photograph, and you weren't taking pictures of the flies, you were taking pictures of the lake. So I can only imagine the interior of your car was just full of them too. It was just happened to be peak season with horse flies, and then to have this thing,
that stuff too growing there, right?
right?
Like,
But since you had told me that story, I always wondered if there was an association with the stank of a Bigfoot and the horse flies, and maybe they were just following the Bigfoot. Is that possible? Do you think that could have been a possibility?
well, I wouldn't want to say that because I was like 45 kilometers prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just that area. I can't say that's not a possibility. I
Right.
can't say that because
Right.
who knows, right? But no, that time of year in that area, it's covered everywhere with horseflies.
Okay.
But as you bring it up, there's also a lot of Squatch sightings that time of year in that area.
Right.
Maybe you just brought up coincidence.
But I could also imagine too that as a Bigfoot, as we know it, or Sasquatch, however you want to refer to it, having long hair, it probably would add a lot of protection from being bit by mosquitoes and horseflies and other insects and ticks and so on and so forth that would feed on something like that. Because again, I go back to the whole horsefly thing. Those things have this dagger that hangs underneath their head that comes out and it looks like a freaking samurai sword, for crying out loud. It's disgusting and it's scary, but I could imagine that if you were thick hair covered, it would probably protect you from being bit up by these things.
Well, you just brought up something that actually made me feel good inside. Okay. And this might sound stupid, what have you, but you use the term hair.
Mm-hmm.
I do not recognize what I've seen. I do not recognize fur.
Right.
I recognize hair.
Right.
And that's interesting that you use the term hair.
Yeah.
Because it's not fur from what I've seen. It's hair.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense to me. I see fur as more of a uniformed. I see fur is more uniform in the way in which it lays off the skin. With hair, each hair is individual, and it doesn't necessarily form uniform. So, like with a cat or a dog, you get a nice shiny coat, but all the hairs lay perfect with each other. As you brought, but with a Sasquatch and even with humans, our hair, you get hair that, some wild hair that goes here and there, and
absolutely.
And that's how I basically see the difference. I know there's a difference in the structure within itself, but from all the witness encounters, again, I've never seen one. I may have heard one, but I've never seen one. But from the film in which I believe is actually a captured Bigfoot, and there's a few of them out there that are very convincing. It looks like hair to me, and I don't.
But in
that's just how I assume.
You brought up the horseflies and such.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would protect it better than fur.
Right. I would think so anyway. I don't know, Henry. What's your opinion on that whole thing?
On the weather.
Have you heard of anything, Henry, like with other predatory insects or so on that seem to follow these things around just because of the smell? Because so many people talk about, man, there was this awful stench. And of course, we know the stench may be a defensive mechanism, but we had this horrible smell. But do you think there would be an influx of insects, mosquitoes, flies that may follow that? I don't know. That's a whole different topic I haven't talked
That's
about.
always a possibility as far as flies and things like that. Following the Sasquatch is
Mhm.
because of the odors, because of the smell.
Right.
Mosquitoes would just generally bother you anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, I know they,
Absolutely.
do predation on deer and raccoons and other animals too, but yeah, that's a mosquito, which
Hmm
again, I think the mosquito is more dangerous than a Sasquatch, but that's a whole different show
Yeah.
But it's the same.
altogether.
Sorry if I'm interrupting you, Henry, but it's the
No.
same concept. Bears stink like you wouldn't believe. So why, like the first encounter I had, I could smell it, and that's the one when I was in Cross Lake, and it stood up, and I seen its back. But it was like the same thing as like if you're walking in the bush and all of a sudden you can smell a bear because they stink. That's the
Mhm.
bottom line. They stink.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't a Sasquatch stink? I think that the first one that I saw that I could smell it. This is just my personal feelings. I'm not whatever. But the first one I saw, the wind was blowing in the right direction. And when I seen the two on East Mossy Passage, the wind was blowing in the other direction. So I didn't smell it. And my personal feeling is it's no different than a bear. Bears stink. They have a distinct odor.
Mhm.
And that's the way I feel about Sasquatch. It's not necessarily that they can express like a skunk and odor or anything like that. No, they just stink because they're dirty like a bear. And that's just my personal
That's
opinion.
true. Right. Well, there are primatologists that have done research studies on silverback gorillas that they are able to emit an odor from their armpits, which I can do on a hot sunny day in the summer without any voluntary, but that they can do it voluntary as a defense mechanism. Now, is that true? We don't know because we don't have one in a zoo to say, hey, let's see if this actually works. But at least with silverback gorillas, from what I understand, they can do this as a defense mechanism to create that god awful odor. And then I wonder what else it may bring in that is attracted to god awful odor. I'm just throwing it out there.
Mhm.
Come on, Bake, what you got to add?
Well, I mean, we talk about the odor. The odor could be a variety of things. The odor could be something it creates, or the odor could be something as simple as, it pees a lot in certain locations so that other Sasquatches know not to get in that area, or it might put out some pheromones to get a she squatch. You might have picked mating season. Maybe that's why it liked you. I mean, there's so many reasons why it could smell that could be a biological reason,
Right.
based on
Right.
that. So I would say at the end of the day is like you think about primordial man, we probably stunk worse than we do now. I mean, but at the same time was as if we tried to smell like the environment so that when we hunted or we did whatever, we weren't disturbing the area. So this thing might be
camouflage.
this thing might be rubbing itself against deer piss for all we know, so that it can go eat a deer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or so I mean, you smell a smell, and maybe that does attract the flies, maybe it doesn't attract the flies. But at the end of the day, I mean, those things could be cause and effect, or they could just be the way that it worked out that day. Like you said, no matter where you went, there were 14 horse flies. You got to figure that thing didn't have a car to hide in.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know, Cory, just going back to your story. And of course, Manitoba, for those that are not familiar too much with that, Manitoba is a province of Canada, which is due north of Illinois, actually. So we're in the same time zone. But of course, we go way up to the Arctic Circle through Manitoba. But Winnipeg is, the one of the major cities. I think isn't that not the biggest city in Manitoba? It would be Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's our capital, Vance.
Yeah, it is the capital. Okay. When they talk about the capital, everybody gets confused. No, Ottawa is the capital of Canada. I'm like, no, that's the capital of Ontario, but who's counting? But yeah,
So
I get it.
I have a
Go ahead.
Canadian
but the
type
Winnipeg
question.
Jets? Oh my God!
Nice.
You know the Winnipeg Jets,
I'm partial
or
to
the
the
Blue
Whales.
Bombers, who are the CFL champions for the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's true, right?
Yeah, we won one or two because they didn't play because of COVID, but that doesn't matter.
No. All right, Bake. What's your question?
I'm trying
So, being that Canada was settled, was it initially by the French, or was it French and English together?
It was actually both.
Were there any stories from the French side of it, with their interactions with the creature or even the Native Americans?
From my knowledge, I don't know from the French side of it, but I do know from the Native side and the English side. My my sixth great grandfather, his name was Peter Fiddler, and he came from England. And he was a surveyor for the Hudson's Bay Company. And my mom has documents of his original diaries when he was surveying for them and his encounters with Sasquatch. And this would be 6 generations back.
Wow.
Well, 7, because he's my 6th grade.
And do you live in the same area that he did, or is it
Well, he surveyed Canada. He mapped Canada for the Hudson's Bay Company.
Okay, so he was all over the
He
place.
went
That's
right
very
from
important.
one end to the other.
Okay, because that was actually sorry. That would be a really interesting diary to see, because I'll tell you, with it's kind of like listening to Lewis and Clark and some of the other things when they saw some things that are like, I have no clue what this is. This is so amazing. But then the Native American said, "Oh no, that's Bob," or hey, that is corn. Stop freaking out, bro. That's corn, okay?
It's cool stuff. And then there's I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a couple other surveyors that worked with not only the Hudson's Bay Company, but with the Northwest Company that were mapping Canada at the same time. And they have notes in their diaries of seeing Sasquatch.
Interesting.
It's like Manitoba is probably, I'm not going to say, I'm proud of it, okay, because it's so unique. I'm not going to say it's the most unique province or area in Canada, but even when you go to BC, it's fairly regular. Like, it is one geographical type of structure. Like, all the trees are the same. They got the mountains there. Manitoba is one of the most unique areas in the world, actually. And we have more documented animals in a series of everything than anywhere in the world in its small structure.
Wow.
We have more animals in this area than any other area in the world.
Wow, I did not know that.
More species of animals.
Now, were those animals indigenous, or were they brought in by the settlers?
No, they've been here the whole time.
Okay, because Florida has a lot of unique animals, but
right.
We not only, and we are, and it almost sounds cryptid, but hell, I've already told you I've seen Sasquatch. So how much of a bullshit is that, right? Because that's not possible. But we actually have growler bears. We have grizzly, polar bear, and growler bears in Manitoba.
That is so awesome. I want to see one.
And it's documented.
Hey guys, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to take our bottom of the hour news break, and we'll be back in. Yes, and we'll be back in under 6 minutes if we're lucky. We'll be back, but let's take the
first time he said
bottom
that.
of the hour. Likes. No.
Hello.
Well, Forger, that didn't work. It worked for a moment. I'm wondering if we all need to like sands through an hourglass, so is the Sasquatch experience. Today's episode is brought to you by Dr. Squatch Soaps and Shampoo. Many of the world's most successful tycoons and leaders of Fortune 500 companies have given advice on how to succeed in a competitive world market. One is to put your best foot forward. Others is to put your foot in the door of a business you wish to employ with. One important suggestion is to make sure that foot is clean and fresh, and one proven way to do so is by using Dr. Squatch soap. If your foot is hair covered, then try Dr. Squatch shampoo. You'll feel so good about your feet being stink-free that you may want to start an OnlyFans page. Right now, use promo code DSQEXP for 20% off 15.12 pounds sterling or $20 US. Dr. Squatch, it's square-shaped and feels great. Again, that promo code, DSQEXP. And God save the Queen. Well, now, isn't this world just getting stranger by the moment? I guess that's why we're here. This is the Sasquatch Experience, stranger than fiction news and stories. Let's jump right into it. Little kids, plug your ears and run away. All right, this story was published this past Saturday about a thief who broke into a freight truck in Denver and made off with some macabre cargo. According to a press release from the Denver Police Department, the truck was parked in East Denver when someone broke into it sometime between 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon on Wednesday, March 2nd, and 9:30 a.m. in the morning, of course that's what a.m. means, on Thursday, March 3rd. The unknown suspect stole a dolly, and we ought to say it was a two-wheel dolly, or otherwise some listeners may be confused, and a box labeled exempt human specimens. The box was full of human heads meant to be used for medical research. Question number 1. This is an editorial. Why the hell would you have a truck with human heads in a box but just parks at 2:30 in the afternoon and we don't move that truck until, well, the next morning? Apparently it wasn't that urgent. And now back to the story. The box bore a Science Care label. Science Care is a program for donating bodies to science for research and education purposes. At this point, no arrests have been made, and investigators are working to gather more information and recover the stolen human remains, according to the Denver police, in which they stated on Saturday. Should someone find the box containing human heads discarded or abandoned, scream like Janet Leigh in the shower from the movie Psycho. Now, it doesn't say that. But that would be my knee-jerk reaction. Anyway, the department is asking, of course this is Denver police, they are asking that you contact them at 720-913-2000 if anyone has additional information. Okay, so you find a box of heads. I can see Baker's going to throw his jokes in right about now. Hey, give your friends some head. Here, get ahead in life. Is it wrong for a man to give another man head? Why, I think not. Hey, I did tell the children to plug their ears and run away. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Sasquatch Experience, Stranger Than Fiction news and stories. And let's blab a little bit more up in the Winnipeg.
Well, thanks, Vance, for that.
I feel targeted and profiled.
I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for your head joke.
You're still waiting for me to get you some head?
And there it is.
And there it is.
Hey,
Folks,
I'm working on Henry's problems. Vance, you're next, all right, man?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, folks, we're back from that very interesting news segment. Thank you, everybody, for sticking through, as we are having a persistent audio issue. But I've done just about everything I can to try to fix it, so I'll try to take it out in post. Guys, good job, Baker. Some really solid questions there, my friend, and Cory, great answers. Makes for some very entertaining times. But as we move through this, Cory, you know, you're a very active investigator now. Like, you spend a lot of time in the field. Is there anywhere in particular you would go to right now, if you could just get in the car and go in Canada, that you know would be a hot spot for Squatch?
Absolutely. At this point in time in the year, it would definitely be Easterville. Easterville to the Grand Rapids area.
Nice.
Absolutely,
Wow.
100%. John Green has even mapped that area and seen Squatch there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in his books, Apes Among Us.
So it's a historical area, historical hotspot, but is it still active to this day? You still get a lot of reports from that spot?
Absolutely. When we go up there, well, I got to watch my wording. I'm trying to, but when Dell and I would go up there, we had, he had, like Sasquatch research on his Jeep and all this stuff. And they would come up, all the people in the Grand Rapids area, Easterville area, and they would tell us story after story after story. And they go like, "Are you guys for real?" And we went, "Yeah." And they would tell us story after story after story. Truckers, like seeing them run across the road. That area is a hot spot year round. We used to have a theory that they migrated, but then we kind of listened to the people of the area, and no, they just live there.
Mm-hmm.
There is a I'm trying to remember the name right now. There's a sanctuary there close to just south of that area that is a reserve that has the most animals when it comes to deer, bats, everything, and that's what makes Manitoba so special. But you can't go in there. There's caves there. And in that reserve, but normal people can't go in there. It's all locked off. And a lot of the people of the area think that the Squatch live around in the caves in that area, and nobody's around there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said something very interesting there I just want to walk back on. You said this time of year. Now, do you think, Cory, that this is a very seasonal animal, that maybe there's some sort of migration habit that this creature has, or what do you think? Now, you did say the caves, which we'll get into next, but I'm curious as to what your thought is on that.
Well, we did think it was migrational, okay? And my mind is very open to this concept, but I think that I hate to say it because I'm going to sound like an idiot, whatever. I'm just going to speak. But I do think that there is a migrational period with some, but in general, they stay in that one area. But there are ones that go out and migrate.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't answer why they would do that. Looking at like growing up trapping and hunting, and I don't anymore, but I still understand the concept. And you have to understand the animals before you can know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that I used to think one way or the other, but now I'm starting to think of it a little more open. And there is definitely clans in the Easterville, Cross Lake, Grand Rapids area that stay there year round, because even with my sightings, I've seen them in the winter and the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So that obviously they don't all take off and migrate. But at the same time, there's a record of seeing a very similar Sasquatch migrating down towards southern Ontario, like toward not like southern Manitoba to Ontario, and then back up again. And there's reports of that. So for me to say that, do they migrate or do they not? I think they do, but I still think they have a clan that sits there. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Bake.
Yes. Could it not be a migration but a radius change? Like a bear will go anywhere from 30 miles to 50 miles from its core den. Maybe during the winter it peeks out more to find more food, or maybe during the summer it peeks out more to find better lands. And maybe not as much of a migration, but they just, go that extra 20 miles because they know that the fruit on that end is still warm,
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not talking about 20 miles or 50 miles. We're talking about like 1,000 miles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not getting. That's not a day trip.
No,
not in the least. No,
it's all the way from central Manitoba.
5 miles is not a day trip for James. Okay.
We do about 600 miles down.
Okay.
And then another like 400 miles. So
that gives me a better
reference. This ain't no day trips. Yeah. Okay. And I don't mean any offense when I say that.
No. That's why I asked the question.
And they are identifying like the same, like lighter strip on the side of the head. Like people are doing this, and this is not. Everybody always looks at like, and I said it before. Everybody looks at BC, Washington, like all these places, and especially Canada. They look at Alberta and BC and go Sasquatch is, no, come to Manitoba. Seriously. And Manitoba and northwestern Ontario. And you're
Cory,
going to be loaded with Sasquatch.
Cory, what you said makes a lot of sense, though, because I think, Henry, when we talk about, was it the Onion Mountain footprints where they found one in like the Pacific Northwest and the same one in Texas? They identified that print as from being from the same creature. And, you talk about that geographic distance, thousands of miles, right? There's a perfect example of the potentiality of that kind of behavior, right? And a lot of us notate that have been doing this research, and that's why I asked you the question, because what you said struck with me. And I was just asked this a couple weeks ago, do I believe in migration? Well, I don't think it's migration as like the geese fly. I think it's like you said, a core group of them stay. Maybe there are those that go out and expand their range only to come back later, or, for whatever reason why they go and take those little journeys. But it was just interesting because that's a question that's coming up more and more about this migration. It's been there for a while, but we're really starting to hear it a lot again. And I think you're right on point with that. Now, the cave system I wanted to talk about because, again, that's something we're finding very interesting. As we go back, gentlemen, and we talk about the work we did in the missing episodes, right? Season 4, there was that overlay with the national park system and the cave systems underneath. I go to Pennsylvania. I go down to the southwest part of Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, and I'm learning that there's a cave system down in an area where there's a high concentration of Bigfoot sightings. And, even though a good part of that cave system may be public, the fact is there's a lot more to that system than the public goes to. And when you see some of these cases where these Bigfoot creatures, they just seem to appear and go out of nowhere, maybe it's not a paranormal thing at all, but a just quick escape to an entry or exit of a cave.
Right.
Cave system, lava tubes or whatever you have, right, that could make that happen. So there's a lot to this that's really starting to come together, and that's why, Cory, when you said some of those things, it excited me a little bit, because I think we're kind of on the same mindset there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I, if you don't mind me interjecting, there's also another area in Manitoba, and that's the Peguis area, and Peguis is a native reserve. And there's the natives there get a ton of sightings, and they notify, like, because I know some people there, and they let me know, oh, like, come up, like, we just seen one here, we seen one there, and it's not like you're just going to go there and find it in the exact same place, like it's like anything, right? But there is a massive amount of cave systems in the Peguis area. And that, you bringing that up, Sean, is it brought it up to me. It just popped in my head. Yeah, there's huge amounts of cave systems in the Peguis area, and there's huge amounts of Sasquatch sightings there too.
Yeah, and that's why I like talking about this, and especially, oftentimes as researchers we get geographically locked into where we're researching. But when you start talking about these sightings and really get into the scope of range and, what we're talking about and sharing our research, you start to find similarities in the things we're going after. And I think we're starting to see that now as we start really getting into an actual discussion about caves. I mean, for a long time, I think it was kind of cliche, Bigfoot lives in caves. But when you go back to the Osmond story and you talk about how he was held in a cave for how long, and, a lot of other stories and sightings around these caves areas and abandoned mines, it starts to make sense. And you can start putting together data from these patterns that, hey, there's something to this. And what I think is the ultimate, nail in the coffin of skeptics saying this isn't real is that now you're getting patterns and data that, even though it's not concrete, and I know eyewitness testimony has its problems, you're starting to get a lot of correlations between these reports and these sightings that we're getting in. How do you start disputing that when you start layering in actual fact?
True. Very true.
It makes it hard.
When you go back to... go ahead, Cory.
But the fact of the matter is, if there's a cave, why would an animal not want to live in there?
Exactly.
Yep. Shelter. Perfect shelter.
Right. Well, if you go to pre-human history, what do we refer to pre-human history as but as cavemen? It's free shelter. There was no energy, expelled in order to create a shelter for you. It's there, it's part of the earth. And I think, look, many animals do it. Fox will take a den and it doesn't necessarily dig that den. It just finds a little cubby and that's where it's going to den at. So it seems to be within nature that you will take whatever advantage you can, for shelter. And a cave system, which they exist all over the, North American continent, not just North America, but North American continent. Why not? And, if it's big enough to house a Sasquatch, I don't see what would be the difference that they wouldn't take and use that as a shelter system as well. Yeah.
Save your energy, when your whole life is, based upon the food you can consume and the energy you can conserve, you have these perfectly made natural structures that require no effort at all to utilize.
Or like here, we have winds that are just whipping the heck out of the whole building. you're not building houses. A stick house may not work for the week, where you may just need to hunker down somewhere a little bit easier.
Right.
Absolutely.
Very true. And to your point, Cory and Sean, when you talked about the thousands of miles migration, human nature does the same thing too. A lot of us are homebodies. We don't get in the car and we don't travel because we don't have that desire. But there's a lot of people that do have a desire to see and experience and explore what is far away and what would be different. They're doing it by foot, but a lot of humans do it by cars. A lot of people don't travel. They work their daily life. They do their daily routine and don't do a whole lot for vacationing except within their close by neighborhoods, where other people will go on a road trip for thousands of miles to see other parts of the country. Why wouldn't that curiosity be the same thing with these creatures too, where you may have a handful of them that'll just go on a walkabout, as Crocodile Dundee would do. You go on a walkabout and you see what your territories are really all about, and you don't understand what boundaries are to state lines or to province lines. You don't know. Wild animals don't know what boundaries and state lines are. They just continue traveling, and then they may return at some point.
Yeah, that's the point.
Hey, Vance.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you?
Absolutely. I'm done.
Please do.
Sorry. You were trying to compare humans with animals.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work.
But we are
Humans
animals.
think different than animals.
Yeah, but we're still an animal species. We just have a different development of intelligence that takes us in different directions, but we're still part of the species of this.
Do we have over animals?
Well, we
Animals
have
can
an
survive
opposable
if
thumb and a
human
brain
race-
that
human
makes
race
us
leaves.
manipulate things. Right.
If the human race
Right.
leaves, the animals will be fine.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
Absolutely.
totally
We wanna
agree with
find
that.
Sasquatch,
Right.
If we want to understand Sasquatch, we got to think like an animal, not like a human
Yeah.
being.
That's
Yeah,
a fair
I've been
point.
called an animal a number of times. So
You
Well, I mean,
filthy
yeah,
animal.
You bring up that point, and that's exactly what a lot of the conversation we've had all night is like a lot of this movement is due to a fundamental need or something that an animal reacts to. An animal might go an extra 60, 600, like the penguins go to a certain spot to mate. It's the drive they have to get to that spot. And then they're like, oh, yeah, hey, we're going to go back. Like, you couldn't have brought the girlfriend home, did it there or whatever. Nope, they go to a certain, salmon, jump up, salmon move downstream and upstream to wherever they were mated because there's a drive there. And the Sasquatch may have that same drive. And then, some of them might say, you know what? I'm tired of driving 400 miles to get this chick. We're just going to live down the block. And they stay there,
Yeah, well, it's a possibility.
Baker logic.
We don't know any of this. Yeah.
She ain't worth all that drive. Okay.
And that's a great place to end us for the night.
None of us are experts, and we
No.
don't pretend to be experts.
No, but a really hell of a good conversation tonight, guys. Thank you so much for pushing through when we were having some difficulties and taking over. James, you were on fire tonight. You better put yourself out, have an extra drink. Studley Lamar, it was a pleasure having you on with us tonight. We got to get you on again. I just love that name.
Yeah, Studley Lamar. Okay.
It's Steadley.
Well, if we can, you never know. We can carry this conversation on yet and do another episode. But for tonight, we are out of time. Boy, that was a quick hour.
That was a very good hour. Thank you, guys. I needed that tonight.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you,
Cory.
man. It's great to have you on. Good to see your smiling face. And we just can't get enough of our friend Cory, man. It's great to have you on the show.
I'm glad that you actually came back on because you were gone for most of it. So.
Yeah, no, I was here. I was in the background trying to run things, but it wasn't working like I wanted it to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought I was the problem all night, but it's someone else, and I'm going to find you wherever you are.
I don't think it was me.
I'm coming for you.
I'm
See?
muted.
No, I don't know.
Hands are up. And
I don't know what it is.
still
It's
hear
not.
stuff.
No, it's
I
not.
don't know.
It's not a keyboard. It's some clicking sound. There's
Yeah,
modulation
it
going on.
sounds
We're
that
gonna
way,
find
though.
it. Like I said, I might be able to take it out and post. We'll see. But it was a great episode. You guys did fantastic dialogue there. It was a good episode. I'm glad it happened, and we got to have Cory back again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get
Thank
a round
you.
of applause for
Like I said,
Cory. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, sir.
Kind of clap you don't need penicillin for.
Yeah.
Cory, where can folks find you? For folks that might want to talk to you or get you their Bigfoot sighting, where can they find you at?
just basically Facebook.
Facebook.
I don't advertise myself, so
Yeah, he's he's
Cory
a good
Lekopoy,
dude, guys.
Facebook.
Cory Lekopoy. Or you can go to Sasquatch Experience and you'll be able to find him.
I'm on Instagram too.
Right.
He's an Insta
Yeah, go to
dude.
Sasquatch Experience, ask us, and we'll forward it to Cory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you
can do
go.
that.
There you
Yeah.
go.
There you
Folks,
go.
again, you can find us on social media, Sasquatch Experience on Facebook and Instagram, Squatch EXP on Twitter, and of course we have our Patreon that you can support us for as little as $2 a month. Patreon.com/Sasquatch. As little as $2. And for $2,
Yeah. Oh, cry,
well,
yeah.
I think it's starting to.
Yeah,
I think it's starting to even out, Cory. I think it's starting. But folks,
or
Henry,
we'll take a walleye. Yeah.
How about
hey,
it?
We'll
We're
take
taking
a walleye
fish.
for a
$2.
monthly subscription. Yeah. Correct.
and this is where it goes downhill. Henry, take us home.
Y'all be good at it.
There it is.
Good night, folks. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.